Hello, friends. Let's go to the question of the day. What does the credit card really do to your mind? Welcome. I'm Fred. Here we talk about business investments, real life, and money, all from my personal perspective. And today's topic is one of those subjects that seem simple on the surface, but when you really think about it, it goes very deep psychologically. A few days ago, I was talking with my brother about this exact subject, and it was interesting because we have completely different views about credit cards. I personally try to avoid use them as much as possible, but he uses them in a way that for him makes total sense and is the first important idea. Different people function in different ways. There is no universal rule that fits everyone. In his case, he uses the credit card as a way to organize his financial life. Instead of having money leaving his account little by little every day, he concentrates everything into one single monthly bill. And honestly, I can see the logic in that. It's not a bad system at all. It just doesn't work for me. For him, the card works like a monthly thermometer. Imagine, for example, that his average credit card bill is around 1000. If one month the bill comes at 1200, he immediately knows that he spent 20% more than usual. That becomes a clear sign for him to slow down the next month. So, in his mind, the card is a control tool. That is psychological. My psychology is the opposite. I prefer to pay almost everything with debit card. When I pay with debit, I know exactly how much money I have today, right now, in my account. There is no illusion, no delay, no future problem waiting for me. I am not saying that I never use a credit card. I use I do use it sometimes, but only for exceptional expenses that don't happen regularly. And my personal goal is always my personal goal is always to keep the bill as close to zero as possible every month. Let me give you a practical example from my own life. Some time ago, I was finishing a construction, and as often happens in projects, near the end of the construction, the money was getting tight. So I used the credit card strategically, not for daily expenses and not for random shopping, but for very specific things related to the project, like electrical materials and plumbing materials. In a way, I finance part of the construction interest free using the credit card. But the moment the project ended, my absolute priority was to bring the card balance back to zero as fast as possible. And here is important to say one thing. Here in Brazil, you can divide the payments of the credit card with zero interest. For example, you are going to buy a certain material for the construction. You can pay it in 10 payments without interest. The shop is able to do that for you. It's not the credit card. It's the shop that do that for you through the credit card, using the credit card. So that is how I see credit cards, as an occasional tool, not as a permanent lifestyle. And this is where psychological part really matters. For me personally, having unpaid bills makes me uncomfortable. It creates a feeling that something is still hanging over my head, Even if rationally I know I can't pay it, emotionally it bothers me. Some people don't feel that at all. They are perfectly comfortable living with ongoing installments and ongoing payments, and that is fine. If they really have control, the problem is that most people don't. Most people don't use credit cards rationally, they use them emotionally. And that is exactly what credit cards do to your mind. They reduce the pain of spending. Think about it for a second. When you pay with cash or debit, you feel the money leaving your account immediately. There is a small psychological pain attached to every purchase. But when you use a credit card, that pain disappears. You swipe the card, everything feels easy, and the real consequence only shows up 30 days later. So, the card creates an illusion that you have more money than you actually do, an illusion that spending is lighter and easier, almost consequence free. And that illusion changes behavior. That is why people buy things with a credit card that they would never buy with cash. The credit card is not just a financial instrument, it is a psychological instrument now. I want to be fair here. There are people who use credit cards very intelligently. They collect points, they organize expenses, they pay everything in full every month, and they never pay interest. For those people, the card can be a useful and even beneficial tool. But let's be honest, they are the minority. Most people use credit cards as a way to spend money they don't really have. And that is where the danger lives. Let me tell you a personal story to illustrate this. When I was around 18 years old, there was a Bank of Brazil branch inside my university campus. I was young, inexperienced, and financially responsible. I went there and got my first credit card with almost no income and no real understanding of money. And of course, I made a mess. I spent what I shouldn't have spent. I lost control. I couldn't pay, and my name got dirty. Classic story. My father had to go with me to the bank and talk to the manager. And I will never forget that moment. He basically told the manager in front of me that they should not give credit card to kids who have no responsibility. At the time, I was embarrassed, but today I understand he was absolutely right. And here is the interesting part. The bank didn't care about protecting me. The bank cared about selling credit. That is their business model. The more credit cards they issue, the more people spend, and the more interest they collect. So, from bank's perspective, giving credit cards to young impulsive people is great business. From the person's perspective, it can be a financial disaster. And this is another important mental shift. A credit card is not your friend. It is a product designed to make you spend more. Now, some people are very comfortable with risk. They live with debt, they use leverage, they finance things, and they still manage to build wealth. That exists, of course, but we need to be honest. Those people are taking risks that others are not, and most people underestimate those risks. In my case, I prefer a calmer approach: less debt, less installments, less psychological pressure. Sometimes I use the credit card to buy something bigger, like a motorcycle, and I pay it in installments without interest. Like I told you, here in Brazil it's possible. That can make sense, but again, That is the exception, not the rule. The real problem starts when exceptions become habits. When just this one time becomes every month. When small purchases accumulate into a giant bill, and suddenly you realize the car is controlling you instead of you controlling the car. So, what does the credit card really do to your mind? It makes spending easier. It delays consequences. It hides reality. It disconnects emotion from money. And if you are not very self aware, it slowly pushes you toward a lifestyle you cannot afford. That is why, in my personal philosophy, simplicity wins. Debit first, cash first, credit only when truly necessary. But again, I'm not saying everyone must do what I do. What really matters is being brutally honest with yourself. Ask yourself if you spend more when you use credit card, if you lose control, if spending with credit feels lighter than spending with debit. If the answer is yes, then the card is not helping you, it's manipulating you. And recognizing that is already a huge step toward financial maturity. So, that is my perspective. For me, the credit card is a useful tool in very specific situations, but psychologically, it can be very dangerous. Now, I want to hear from you. How do you use your credit card? Does it help you stay organized or does it make you spend more than you should? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video, my friends.